Radio.
And we're back with more of your coffee break on the HAN network, streaming live at hanradio.com/livestream. Kate Chaplinsky, joined also by Josh Fisher,
Hi,
who
Kate.
came to hang out. And on the line, we have Dr. Aaron Krasner of Silver Hill Hospital, who's coming on to talk to us about a very relevant topic this time of year. As summer is winding down, a lot of kids are going off to college, and there's a lot that goes along with that, Josh. Dr. Aaron, welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you? Thanks for having me on.
Good. Thanks for coming on and talking to us. Now, Doctor, you refer to this as kind of an emotional packing list. Can you tell us what you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, excuse me. Going off to college is sort of the end of the separating, well, not the end, but sort of an important milestone in the separating process from being in the fam to kind of becoming your own person. And as such, it's important for families to help their kids not only get the logistics down, but also kind of help them to pack emotionally and to prepare for what's coming their way. And so we've come up with a couple little things that we think that families would benefit from. The first thing really being a recognition that this is a really important time for kids when in their lives. More than 25% of college kids are treated for some kind of mental health problem during college. It's a pretty big number.
Yeah.
More than 80% report feeling overwhelmed at one point or another. And it's also important to remember that most psychiatric illnesses, depression, anxiety, and other more severe ones, really come online between the ages of 18 and 25, right when these kids are separating and flying the coop. And most universities and colleges have set up infrastructure to help detect mental illness and treat it, but some haven't. So we're trying to get the message out to parents that they should be prepared and to help their kids prepare emotionally for this very important milestone. And I could, should I go on? Tell you what some of the things are that we have in our emotional packing list? All right, here we go. Number one, build on the current relationship and repair whatever problems that you can. Separating successfully from a secure relationship with your parents is a tough task for everyone. And taking stock in your relationship with your child and repairing the things in it that you can, I think, is super important. And one of the most important parts of that is clarifying communication. What are the communication expectations when your child goes away to school? How do you communicate now? Most kids, in my practice, if I call them on the phone and leave a voicemail, it's like insulting. I got to text them. So most everybody is texting these days. And of course, it's important to have to solidify what are some of the pragmatic issues. How, for example, is the money going to flow? Is it going to come out of whose account, when, how, where? What is the money situation? What are the expectations with respect to safety? How much check-ins and all that kind of stuff? Those are the kinds of secure things that you can do with your kid before they go to school. In the next couple of weeks for your audience out there, this is a good time to do it. And that may help them feel more secure in making this very, very big transition.
And, Dr. Krasner, I'm just curious because I've heard people argue, either way. I've heard people say, oh, if you're too overprotective, then when your child goes to college, they're just going to go crazy because they're not going to know how to handle that freedom. But then, you also hear that, well, if you have a strong family unit, that your child's going to do well when they move on from you. I mean, so what's your opinion on that?
That's a great question. I think that there's been a whole emergent literature about this concept of helicopter parenting and what its long-term impact is on kids. some people have begun to argue that overly involved, overly scheduled parenting approaches in which the kid has relatively less agency and parents are really very involved in the pragmatics of the kid's life, which is an inevitability for lots of families, has made this new emergent group of kids, I don't know how new it is, but a group of kids who are uber educated, uber talented, but have a kind of fragilized sense of how they're going to resolve conflicts since they've been in some ways overly dependent on their parents. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that, but certainly there's a growing kind of cohort within the psychological and psychiatric community that has identified helicopter parenting as problematic in some ways. I think probably if you're realistic, there's some modicum of helicopter parenting that's an important part of nurturing a kid. And so it really winds up being a balancing act between involvement and allowing your child the autonomy and freedom to experience, for example, failure and experience the difficulties of not exactly getting what they want, and then finding a way around it, problem solving, and reconciling the emotional impact of that. So I think at the end of the day, if I could boil it down, what I would say to parents is what you want to create for your kid is a secure base. And this goes back to the attachment literature that's talked about in toddlerhood and talked about early on in kids' lives, but I think is just as important when kids are leaving the nest. So what's a secure base? A secure base is a relationship with a parent or parents that is validating of emotional experience, that is not quick to problem solve for the kids, but trying to find that happy medium between problem solving for and working with the child, and just kind of a fundamental sense of acceptance that this is my child, I love my child no matter which way, and we're going to be working together as a unit. And that security, I think, really goes a long way in helping kids separate, because it's actually hard for kids. No kid will ever tell you that it's hard for them. When you have an 18-year-old who's going to college, they're never going to say, "Oh, it's hard for me to leave." But they're like, "I'm going to college." but it is hard, and some of the acting out that you see in college kids has to do with some of the difficulties of separating. And the literature really strongly suggests that the more secure the relationship is with the parents emotionally, the more safe the relationship is, the more safe the separation is, and the better the judgment in the kid who's going off to school. Now, that research study has not been done, but it's commonsensical. It has face validity to me, and it also takes the helicopter parent urge that we all have for our kids, and all of the investment that we've put into our kids since they're so little, watching them toddle along and watching them, take hits on the football field or, dancing or whatever it is that we've helped them to do, and to kind of transform that into a new kind of the beginnings of an adult relationship with your child. That is a really, really hard transition. And my practice, my psychiatric practice, is oftentimes full of patients who have struggled to make that emotional kind of separation or take that emotional leap into feeling autonomous as people. And the result of that is feeling insecure at work, feeling insecure in school, feeling insecure in relationships. And so this concept of security, of the secure base of the parents with the kid, I think goes well beyond the literature in terms of the attachment stuff with toddlers, and goes well into certainly this transitional phase in going to college, but also probably beyond.
Doctor, talk about how overscheduled or just actually scheduled kids are these days. And then when they get to college, I think a lot of them find that they're underscheduled or there's a lot of free time. And that might be time that they're not used to, kind of just time alone or time to, cause trouble even. What sort of advice do you give to the kids about this, or the young adults, and to the parents? And what's a good way to talk to their kids about this new free time that they're going to find themselves with?
I think that's a fantastic question. I think goes right to the heart of the matter. Kids in high school, man, I work in Fairfield County. These kids are busy.
Right.
They are moving and shaking, even through senior year, and they are, they're running this, they're running that, they're on this team. I don't have to tell you. I mean, it's these kids. They sleep 6 hours if they're lucky, and to then go to school where you got a class Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and a Tuesday, Thursday, and nothing in the evening. You're right. It's kind of a crisis. So this is a perfect example of having that secure base in talking to your kid and anticipating, well, what's it going to be like to have the extra free time? Because if you have that secure relationship with your kid, you can sort of problem solve around it. Now, I'm gonna excuse me. I'm gonna say that a lot of kids are and healthy kids, as well as kids who may have psychiatric vulnerabilities, are gonna covet that free time, and that's part of the liberation do when parents leave after dropping their kids off and setting up the furniture, and they say, "Bye, honey, bye-bye." And they do a little liberation dance because now there is downtime, and but at the same time, the downtime is a problem, or can be, and what you would hope is you could do some anticipatory work as a family. Well, what's it going to be like to have the downtime? And do you need help scheduling? Do you need help budgeting your time? A lot of these kids have had their time very carefully allotted for them. Well, now it's the homework time, and now it's time to be on the debate team, and blah, blah, blah. So I think having a conversation with them before going about how to manage that downtime, and perhaps more importantly, what they can do if they are struggling with the downtime, and opening that secure base, and opening the dialogue is, I think, really important. But you really put your finger on the pulse. That is the problem, is that I think people go from overscheduled to underscheduled, and that's really, really scary for parents and for kids.
Is there like an exercise, or do you suggest journaling, or blogging, or I don't know, something so that kids could be, or these young adults can just kind of be used to being with their own thoughts?
You mean before they go?
Well, yeah, before they go, or when they get there. Like, not that you need to go there and you need to make sure that you need to schedule every minute of your life like maybe your life had been beforehand, but it's okay to, just kind of sit there and be with yourself. And that you don't have to always fill every minute with some sort of planned, organized activity.
Yeah, I think I think there are specific activities that people can engage in, reflective activities like that. I'm guessing a lot of college freshmen are not going to be particularly thrilled about doing that.
Right.
You're right.
Right.
And the kinds of things that come to my mind are, is saying to the kid, is there something you could do besides school? You've been doing you're a 3-season varsity athlete going to a good school, and all you have are these, 12 hours of classes a week. Is that going to be okay? Yeah, of course that's going to be okay. And they say, well, if it's not, if you have extra time on your hands, because I'm going to go there. I mean, the worry really is that kids will be seduced into drugs and alcohol,
Right?
Because the downtime opens the door for partying, and that for some people is really, really dangerous. Of course, underage drinking is illegal, and all that stuff. So I think I think everyone has in the back of their minds when talking about this piece is my kid going to go away to school, do the bare minimum, and get lost in the party scene? And I think building in prior, for those listeners who are, have kids who are juniors or whatever, building in anticipation of this transition, an opportunity for more autonomy in managing their time, I think is probably the best thing to do. But if your kid's going in 2 weeks and they've been scheduled to the hilt, being able to address this, have the flexibility of conversation, and encouraging them to engage perhaps some extracurriculars while they're at school, I think is a really, really good idea.
Right. Now, Dr. Krasner, what would you say once students are there and, parents are communicating with them while they're away, is there any signs that parents should look for that, obviously every child gets a little homesick, maybe they go through hard times at that first semester. I mean, is there anything that they should look for as like warning signs of this might be a bigger problem?
Yeah, I think so. You said something very important, actually. The first semester is a challenging time. I'd encourage parents to really look for the first 6 weeks. Those first 6 weeks for some kids are particularly challenging. So, an innocuous text like, how's the weather up there? What's going on? I think is probably a good idea, especially during those first 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty big transition.
Right.
So what are the signs? I think erratic communication is something. Most kids have erratic communication, but particularly erratic communication where you're not hearing from your son or daughter for a couple of days. Certainly, when you speak with them, if there's a sense that they're down. Certainly, if they tell you they're down, or particularly anxious, or if some kids struggle to have connections with their parents at that particular moment for lots of different reasons. But if there's another, like an aunt or an uncle or a friend or whomever, some kind of person, maybe even nearby them at school, who can kind of check in with them, you might even plan before they go to school within that first 6 weeks a visit, even though it's pretty early.
Right.
And just go lay your eyes on your son or daughter and see how they're doing. And you don't have to make it a big deal where you're like, I'm coming in, I'm flying to California, and I want to spend the whole weekend with you. No, just say you're flying to California. Don't discuss it and say, do you think it would be okay if I came? Just say, I'm coming. If you have any worry.
Good advice.
And say, I'm just expecting to have lunch with you, and I just want to lay eyes on you.
Yeah.
And what that leads to is really a discussion about what to do in the eventuality that there is a problem. So let's imagine that a kid goes away to school, feels very nostalgic, homesick, and becomes depressed. So that wouldn't be new. There are lots of university and college-based mental health systems that have built up infrastructure to address this particular problem. And I think that knowing what services are available before the kids go is a really, really good idea. So for your audience out there, Google what the mental health programs are. Most of these centers offer like 5 to 10 free visits and then a referral. So then the next question, in the eventuality that the university or college system doesn't have a robust college mental health program, and really most do at this point, but in the eventuality they don't, you want to know who the community providers are, and you'll want to take a second and look at the different psychologists or psychiatrists or whatever. And you may even have a conversation, especially if you have worries certainly if your kid's been in treatment prior, then you're already doing all this stuff, I'm sure. And if you're not, then you might consider it. And if you have worries that the transition is going to be particularly challenging for your child, you might even look up some of these resources now and have a conversation with your son or daughter that says, look, if this is challenging, if there's problems, there's evidence-based treatments for helping kids with depression, anxiety, even feeling terribly homesick. And it would be our pleasure to help you to access those services and kind of make a little plan if you have that worry prior. And if it hits you out of the blue, it's a little bit harder. But like I said, a lot of these colleges have infrastructure for this. So you'll access that infrastructure and then find a way to communicate with your son or daughter and or the mental health professional who's triaging the problem to make a plan going forward.
So, doctor, I know you said that you talked about texting and everything, but should you be checking in? Should you have a regular check-in point, maybe once a week with your child, with your son or daughter, just so you can hear their voice or FaceTime them or?
Yeah, I love that idea. I mean, if you think about any kind of transition, the more successful transitions are ones that are slow.
Right.
And if you can build in some transition time over those, say, first 6 weeks where you're saying, look, I know it's a pain in the butt, and, mom and I are worried, and we really want to connect with you once a week, Thursday at 7.
Right.
Can you do that? No, well, I don't know what I'm going to be doing Thursday at 7.
Just 10 excruciating minutes on the phone with mom and dad.
Well, I don't know. I could be, I could have something to do. Well, he's okay, fine, but like if it's not going to be Thursday at 7, what about Saturday at 3? Well, I'm going to be studying. Well, then look. Oh, come on, Jimmy, Susie. We can find 10 minutes. Your mom and I love you. We want to, or your mom, or I love you if it's for single parents or single dads. I'm going to be missing you. Put it on you. In that way, you can sort of lower the anxiety around the child feeling micromanaged, because I think you really want to encourage them to feel increasingly autonomous. But like I said, successful transitions are slow transitions, and if we go from overscheduled and totally, not totally micromanaged, but even somewhat micromanaged to absolute freedom, it's tough. It's hard on them.
Right.
So I like that idea quite a bit.
Good job, Josh.
It's my one good idea this week, Kate.
It's only Tuesday.
Yeah, exactly.
You may have one more.
It's all downhill from here, Doctor.
Well, Dr. Krasner, this is some really great advice. I mean, any just parting thoughts that you want to leave us with?
Yeah, most kids and families navigate this pretty well. We've been doing it for a couple hundred years, and I'm just impressed that you guys have an interest in this, because that really begins to show a shift in society where we're no longer looking at mental health in a stigmatized way. Your willingness to talk to me and engage this conversation and encourage your audience to think about this issue really, to me, demonstrates that we are all moving in the right direction. Because depression and anxiety and other major mental illnesses are much more common than people would care to discuss. It's probably close to, like I said, 1 in 4 people, certainly 1 in 4 college kids is going to get some kind of treatment or another. And for us to be having an empathic conversation just today, the 3 of us, but also including your audience, and then also including the kids, demonstrates that we are becoming more savvy as a society about about mental health.
Yeah.
And I think you'll find if you talk to successful people, people in business, people hiring, new blood out of the system. The EQ and the IQ are probably comparably important. And having emotional intelligence, which means being able to access help when you need it, and or being introspective or reflective enough to understand what's going on with you, is emerging to be as important as being a smart person. So I just am impressed with you guys and vicariously with our society, that kind of slowly but surely we're moving in a direction where we embrace the challenges emotionally that we face, and that we are slowly but surely acclimatizing to getting help when we need it. And I really, really am grateful for the chance to speak with you guys, and I'm wish the best to all you parents out there, and to all your kids in making this transition. Really, it goes well. For we've been doing this a long time, but if there are problems, maybe this conversation you can remember it, and you can remember that there are things to do, and that it can be taken on, and that it's an important challenge to take on when or if it becomes necessary to do so.
Well, Dr. Krasner, we also just want to mention, Silver Hill offers a lot of important services. People can get more information at silverhillhospital.org. Just thank you so much for joining us and talking to us about this.
Oh, it's my great pleasure. And working here at Silver Hill is great. It's a great hospital.
Great.
And if anyone wants to know more about the services that we offer, they can email me personally at akrasner@silverhillhospital.org.
All right. Great. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Okay. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Have a great